Welcome back to Turning Hard Times into Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really pleased to have with me once again Eric Coffin. And you can catch up with Eric and what he's doing and subscribe to his newsletter at hraadvisory.com, hraadvisory.com. Thanks for joining me again, Eric.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
Always good to talk to you. It would be better to talk to you in person up there in Vancouver, which is my favorite city. Well, at least when it's not raining, it's my favorite city. But it's good to have you with us. First and foremost, what are your thoughts about today's blood in the streets with respect to the gold markets? Are people you rub shoulders with up there, the mining executives, junior guys, junior mining guys, are they getting a little bit frightened by this move, Eric?
Oh, yeah, I think it's safe to say there's a fair amount of freaking out going on today. We're not that far out of a pretty horrendous bear market, and when you go through 4 years like that, you keep expecting the worst, and I think a lot of people are looking at the action in the last couple of weeks and saying to themselves, is that it? Is it all over?
Yeah.
I don't think that it is, personally. I think this is a fairly normal correction. It's a little deeper than I thought it would be. But, guys that I've talked to that are more sort of technical analysts, if you will, guys that analyze the charts, by and large, a lot of them were talking about seeing these levels this month. I don't know if they were thinking they were going to see it this fast, but I get the sense most of them aren't terribly surprised by this. It's more us fundamental types that are freaked out by it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it's understandable. I mean, the pain that these mining executives and those of us who have been in this industry went through over the last 5 years. It's, I guess we're a little bit like a puppy dog that's been mistreated or beaten or something, and we're coming out hoping that everything is all right. But it is a bit disconcerting. But I must say, in looking at Michael Oliver's work over the weekend, he suggested that sometime this quarter that we might see something around where we are right now. In fact, 1272 was sort of his downside target and support line. So we're there, and we'll see if it holds. And as he was saying, Michael was saying, if it holds, he thinks this is going to be a great time to start loading up. Well, in any event, you and Scott Gibson are putting together another wonderful forum. It's called the Metals Investor Forum. It's going to be held up there in Vancouver again at around, I guess it's November 12th and 13th at the Hotel Georgia, the Rosewood Hotel Georgia in Vancouver. I mean, I must say, the one I attended back in May was just fabulous, and I think everybody who was there was very pleased, the companies, but also the subscribers to our newsletters that were there as well. Talk to us a little bit about the upcoming event, who's going to be there, who's going to be some of the speakers, and who are some of the companies that we might look forward to meeting up with.
Well, the speakers are going to be you and me, Glenn Preston from the Resource Maven, John Kaiser, Joe Mazumdar from Exploration Insights, and Jordan Roy Byrne, who writes the Daily Gold. Jordan's a technical analysis guy, and also I might add someone that was calling for these price levels in gold to show up around now. So, I mean, he kind of hit the nail on the head from what I can see. Mm-hmm. We're still inviting companies, and of course, there's 6 of us speaking, and everybody gets to invite their favorites. So, I get information from people as it comes in on who said yes, but some of the companies that I'm following that will be presenting there include Northern Shield, which should be drilling or finished drilling a really exciting exploration project in Quebec right about then. Another company that I added quite recently called Vendetta Mining. Vendetta's got a lead-zinc project in the middle of the lead-zinc belt in northeast Australia, rather. I added that because it looks like the work they've done this year seems to have backed up management's belief that they do have a Broken Hill model system, and I think they can build that to 12 or 15 million tons, and that location with those grades, I think 12 to 15 million tons is quite a saleable deposit. There's a number of companies around them that could use lower strip ratio material and or just a 4 or 5 year extension on their ore bodies. I mean, if they get to 15 million tons, it's probably economic standalone, but I think management would be quite happy if somebody came and took it off their hands and gave everybody an exit. Another company that I've followed for a while, and I know you're following now as well, I'm going to ask, I think they'll probably come, but I'm waiting for them to hear back from them. That's GMV, which is the Oxide Gold project in Arizona. I'm really interested to see what their next phase of exploration looks like. They're just starting work now, probably this week. They will be drilling in 2 or 3 weeks to add to the 530,000 ounce oxide resource. That's obviously great if they do that, but I'm equally interested in the work they're doing out in the flats. All of this resource is sort of located sticking out of the side of Mexican Hat Hill, which is what the project is named. But I've always been quite interested to see if they could find new zones out in the flats. No one's really looked before these guys came along. They've got some geophysical evidence that the structures that contain the gold do, in fact, extend out into the flats. They a handful of samples, and it was literally a handful, just basically reconnaissance samples. There's no real outcrop away from the hill, so they took a few soil samples where they thought these structures were running, and they did, in fact, apparently get anomalous gold numbers. So they're doing a much bigger soil survey, and they're going to bring in a more powerful geophysical system. But what I'm hoping to see there is a bunch of new zones get outlined. Another company that has already gotten back and said they will be presenting in November is a company called Almadex Minerals. Almadex, as a lot of you may know, if you follow the sector for a while, is a spinner of Almaden Minerals, same guys. They spun out everything other than their Ixtaca discovery in Mexico into this new unit. They've got one property in eastern Mexico called El Cobre. They released some pretty nice 2 separate intercepts from one long hole about a month and a half ago, and I talked to Morgan Pollock, when the CEO, a couple of days ago. He just got back. They are continuing to drill. They've got 2 rigs going now. I mean, obviously, he wasn't dropping too many hints. I don't expect to see more results till, say, next week, but I can tell you that he seemed extremely comfortable and extremely confident, and Morgan is something of an expert in both porphyries and in the particular rocks in this part of the world. So the fact that he's confident and comfortable makes me confident and comfortable. And that's a fairly tight stock. They've got 40 million shares out. It's trading at about 80 cents, but the shareholders are essentially the Almaden shareholders that was spun out as a dividend. And it's got a pretty loyal shareholder base, so that thing's structured in, it could move a long way if they hit something really interesting, because they have a lot of shareholders that just aren't going to be sellers.
Yeah, they do, and I think it's sort of a project generator model as well, isn't it, Eric? And they tend to focus on, if they have one project that really looks like they can take it a long ways themselves, they go ahead and spend some money to do it, but they also have a number of other properties as well, perhaps, that they might vend out, lease out.
I'm not even sure what the total is, but they've got, something in the order of 30 or 40 projects.
Right.
One thing that they've got that they argue, and probably correctly, really doesn't really get much value from the market, is they do have royalties. Almadex does have royalties on Ixtaca. It's got royalties on the project that El Cobre was pulled out of, called what's it called? Anyway, it's a gold deposit. Both of those are likely to go into production. They also have a royalty on the Elk project up in BC, which may or may not go back into production. I mean, bottom line is, if you look at royalty deals, what they're paying for near-term royalties, you can make the argument that those royalties themselves are probably worth half what the stock's trading at. And I think most people just ignore them. And that seems to be what they want to do. I get the sense they would like to do a bunch of deals where they effectively sell the project, get a significant share position in a third-party company and a royalty, and basically build up a royalty portfolio at the same time that they're drilling their favorite projects themselves.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. 74 cents Canadian money, down 10 cents today on today's bloodbath, with only 44 million shares.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that has. It's one of those that tends to have big swings because it doesn't trade a lot of volume. And if I was stink bidding anything today, it would probably be that one. Frankly, I do kind of like the feel of that one, and I think they're onto something.
Mm-hmm. 210,000 shares today in this down day, so maybe a little more than normal. But in any event, they're really good people. I've known them for a number of years too, Eric, and that's one I've followed as well. I mean, if you look at a company like Vendetta Mining, my goodness, I think I saw it was at 7 cents Canadian or something like that today.
Yeah.
So if they come up with,
it's about 10. It was about 7 when I started talking about it. But what they need to do is in order to pay for this year's work, early this year, I mean, zinc, nobody really cared about zinc earlier this year. A lot of people still don't care about it. They did a much bigger placement than they really wanted to at 5 cents, a 50 million unit placement. It should be noted, though, half that placement was bought by either insiders or 2 institutions. They want to use the warrants, the 10-cent warrants attached to that, sort of as the next placement, if you will. So I think we can assume it's going to trade in, or it's got to trade in and around these levels for a while to soak up some of that volume in order for those warrants to get exercised. But I think at the current price, it's got about a $7-8 million market cap, and if they do get 12 to 15 million tons here, and I think they've got a real shot at that, the NPV of that project would be 20 times that, I would think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the kind of thing. I mean, these are opportunities. My listeners, I want you to think about this, because these are opportunities that come along not very often, and it's not as if you can throw darts at these things. Eric is someone who's been around this business for a long time. His family's been in this business for a long time in the exploration side of the mining sector, and if you want to improve your odds of picking out some of these penny stocks that have a real chance of becoming something 10, 20, 30 times what they're worth now. Well, Eric hits those every now and then, especially quite often actually in a bull market. So you might want to consider it's hraadvisory.com. And Eric, these are really opportune times, I think. Today has been a tough day for those of us on the long side of the gold market, the gold share market, and the mining sector. But it's times like this when you can really do extremely well. So, any closing thoughts? We are basically out of time. Anything else you'd like to add?
I mean, this feels close to capitulation. I mean, I think if people are nervous, I think the day you probably want to wait for is Friday. Friday is the next non-farm payrolls. It's supposed to come in around 180. I mean, if it came in at, say, above 200, I think you would probably see gold test 1260. If it's a negative surprise, then we may have just seen the bottom for a while here an hour ago. So that's, decide how brave you're feeling, I guess, whether you want to.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, everybody has to make up their mind, for themselves, and they want to sleep well at night. You want to take that into consideration as well. But again, we want to encourage people. I'll be sending things out. We'll be talking about the Metals Investor Forum coming up on the 11th or on the 12th and 13th of November in Vancouver, and Eric will probably be talking to you again between now and then, and some of the other speakers as well. So I want to thank you very much for being with us, and we'll look to do it again sometime real soon.
Okay. Thanks very much, Jay.